Hello, it is nice to meet you once again. We are going to talk about service quality dimensions as the lesson number 2 of Unit 3 of your BA 674 Services Marketing course. This is your Professor M.K. Sharma from the Department of Business Administration from the Marketing Group of Tezpur University. So in this session, we are going to talk about customer expectation. We have already talked about customer expectation, how customer expectation is formed, and how we want to measure customer expectations in our earlier video on service quality gaps. Today, we are just going to refresh whatever we have learned in that session. Then we are going to talk about customer perception of quality and customer satisfaction, because customer satisfaction also is dependent on customer perception of quality. And then we are going to talk about how to measure service quality. Like, customers will perceive our quality on the basis of certain dimensions, and we are going to talk about these dimensions in our detailed discussion on SERVQUAL, that is service quality measure, and some other measures that also measure service quality dimensions. So let us start with customer expectations. As you know, I think you can recall very well that we talked about past experience, personal need, word of mouth, that is traditional word of mouth, oral word of mouth, or digital word of mouth, like those stars that you normally give when you review a particular service or particular product, and explicit and implicit promises. There may be external communication to the market. There may be certain implicit promises that you make by way of your past deed, by way of your behavior in the society, and all these things would actually give rise to customer expectations. So your job is to meet customer expectation, as you already know, and if the customer thinks that your service quality is meeting their expectations, then the customer should go back happily. If there is certain gap, negative gap, they wanted more and you couldn't give that much because of various reasons, it might happen, then customer would go away as a dissatisfied customer. And somehow if you can give more than what they expect, there is also a big issue whether you should do that or not, but somehow if you can give more than their expectation, then customer would be delighted. So there is a concept called customer delight, which we think we are going to talk about or deal with in another special episode of video. But let us not digress from the issue. Today we are going to talk about service quality and its relationship with customer expectation and customer satisfaction. So personal need, word of mouth, past experience, and implicit and explicit promises that is made by the company, made by the service provider, is going to give rise to the customer expectation of service. Now, I have read a very interesting story when I was reading a textbook written by Parashuraman, Jetmal, and Bittner. Actually, we are going to invoke that book many times during this discussion. The authors gave an example when they visited Japan. One of the authors visited Japan and he wanted to buy a calligraphy pen. You know, calligraphy pen that you write beautiful words, and if you have gone through the life story of late Steve Jobs, probably then you are very much aware about the word calligraphy. Okay, fine. So that author went to a store where calligraphy pens were there, and he was an inexperienced person as far as buying a calligraphy pen is concerned. So he wanted to have advice from the salespeople. But lo and behold, whenever he approached the entrance of the store, many service contact person, many salespeople came together and tried to help him, tried to ask what he wanted, and actually everyone was so much eager to help the author in deciding the right calligraphy pen for him that the author was astonished and he was mesmerized. He concluded that in Japan, experience of the customers with the service provider is always intense, always pleasurable, and always for foreigners it surpasses their expectation. Now, you know what happens then? Once you get experience with that kind of a service, the next time whenever you go to anywhere in Japan, you would be expecting the same kind of service. So customers' expectation from service is therefore directly related to the past experience of that particular customer. There may be many thousands of different experiences of a particular customer, and he would try to invoke all these experiences when he forms customer expectation. If he comes to a developing country like India, when there is a huge traffic, there's a lot of people all around the roads, there would be cows, then probably a foreigner's expectation, foreign driver's expectation when he was driving around in Indian roads, you'd be expecting a lot of chaos on the road. You'd be expecting a lot of cows on the road. So he would not be really disappointed to have cows on the road and to have people crossing the road, not through the zebra crossing, anywhere and everywhere. But the same person, if he is driving in a different country, for example in Thailand, where people are more disciplined, when you do not find any animal, even a dog or a cat on the road, if he gets that kind of experience, you'd be thoroughly displeased. So therefore what happens? The customer expects different things, different levels of service at different service providers' place. Whenever they want a particular service in a particular place, maybe in a particular community, maybe in a particular country, maybe in a particular area, that his or her expectation would form based on his or her past experience, word of mouth. That particular driver might not have come to India earlier, but he or she could have heard about it. He or she could have read about Indian roads. So he or she would be having that kind of expectation when driving on Indian road. And also the promises that the Indian road authorities, Indian highway authorities, they are going to make, explicitly or implicitly. Whenever you are driving on a highway, your implicit promise, you don't have to tell it with so many words. Whenever you say the word highway, when you say the word four lane, that means you are expecting that all drivers would be following particular rules. That is implicit promises, and the roads would be free of potholes. Roads would be free of bumps. So these are all implicit promises. You don't have to write it down somewhere. So you form that expectation. The moment you are saying highway, the moment you are saying four-lane highway, expressway, there will be some kind of expectation in the mind of customer, and he or she would look forward to that expectation. So therefore, customer expectations are beliefs about service delivery that serve as reference point of. So customer expectation is so important for service provider. That is, reading up customer expectation, finding out what a particular customer wants from me is so important for me as a service provider, because that would serve as a reference point of my performance. So what would be my performance? My performance would be revolving around customers' expectations. And it's not so easy to find out customer expectation. Last episode, last lesson, we discussed the gaps that we might face, the hurdles, the barriers are there, in understanding a particular customer's expectation or a group of customers' expectations. So, why we must understand customer expectation? Because it gives us a reference point for our performance. So, there are various levels of customer expectations. We are not going to talk about those levels at this moment, but this is very important. A customer will always desire a particular level of service. Suppose you are going to a hospital and you are waiting for your doctor to turn up. You are in the queue and you desire that you would be called very soon, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. But again, that will depend on your past experience of visiting the same doctor. If he's a very busy doctor, if there is a huge line and you are number 3030 in the queue, only 15th person has gone inside, then you know that you'll have to wait for long. But you desire inside your mind that the doctor will come out, and because you know the doctor, he will wave to you and bring you in and serve you as soon as possible. That can happen, in your dream, maybe that can happen. And second thing is that customer should always have that desired service at a level up. That should be that you are waiting there should be a potable drinking water. This drinking water would be in a safe condition for drinking. There would be air conditioning, the seating arrangement would be good, and if you are in a situation where there is communicable disease are there, so the seating arrangement would have enough distances between the chairs, and there would be something to get engaged with when you wait for your doctor. When you wait for your turn, there might be a magazine, there might be a TV, and probably you see when you're waiting for a doctor, God forbid you don't have to wait for a doctor, that's great. But if you have to wait for a doctor for you or for your near and dear ones, when you are attending someone, there is a TV, big TV in front of you, but the TV is running something but it's muted. You cannot listen to anything. Inside, you wanted to listen to it. That is your desired service. You find that there are magazines, that you can engross with these magazines. But one thing I always notice, when you wait for a doctor in a doctor's chamber, all these magazines are old volumes. You do not find current magazines out there. I do not know what is the reason. Maybe the doctor's home, the family members would be reading these first and then give it to the patients. I do not know. Please forgive me if anyone from a doctor's family. But that's what I always keep thinking. Why these old volumes are there, magazines or anything else are there in the doctor's, in the waiting room, when the doctor wants the customer, that is the patient, to get engrossed to it or get engaged with those things. That is the desired service. You have a particular level of desire. So you might desire that a cold drink would be served to you, a hot cup of coffee would be served to you when you are waiting for your turn in a different situation, for probably when you are waiting for delivering a bill. That never happens, but then you desire that. But there is a adequate service, because there is a practical threshold, because just now I said that cold drinks would be served when you were standing in a queue, long queue to pay a particular bill. Practically, you know that is not possible. Practically, you'd be very grateful if there is a glass of water somewhere. Somebody would be coming and give you a glass of water. He cannot leave the queue, because the moment you leave the queue, what will happen? You lose your place. Maybe when you have to answer nature's call, there would be a neat and clean restroom somewhere with adequate provision for water. But then when you are going to a particular government office and then waited in a queue for paying a bill, and practically you do not expect anything. So what do? You get ready that you don't have to go to the restroom. All of you do that, all of us do that. whenever we're going to such a place where we know that there would be no proper restroom. So that is my practical threshold. Threshold limit is that, okay, fine, restroom is gone, okay, fine, glass of water is gone, no need. But my waiting time should be as less as possible. If it is in 1 minute, if it is without waiting in the queue, I would be so happy. So your adequate service would have a zone of tolerance. You desire certain things, maybe a glass of water, maybe a hot cup of coffee, maybe a clean restroom. But even if you do not get this, but you are served in a lowest possible time, or that is shortest possible time, your adequate service is made because your zone of tolerance is this high. So different persons will have different zones of tolerance. Some people are impatient. They even cannot wait for 1 minute. Some people are really patient by nature. So waiting for them for half an hour, maybe it's okay. They will be unhappy, but they will not get mad. But if a restless person will have to wait for 10 minutes, you would be shouting around, you would be keep on talking and murmuring things which actually you do not want to hear. So perceived service should be in these range. So I didn't say that, or no, customer service experts are not going to tell you that this service should be actually at that level. The perceived service should be at this range. Maybe waiting time, we'll talk about that towards the end of this course. Waiting time, why always does it seem longer? Have you waited for somebody? Have you waited for your terms? Have you ever saying that mera number kab aayega? Now whenever you are waiting for something, your time really stands still. The waiting time becomes longer. Why? Because you do not like waiting. So even if you're waiting for 5 minutes, you might perceive that you are waiting for 15 minutes. You do not carry on using a stopwatch like this. You do not start the moment you wait and then you stop the stopwatch the moment you are served. No, it doesn't happen in practical life. Unless somebody is a very quantitative person, that's a different thing. But normal customers will never let that happen. So what do? They will perceive how much time they are waiting for their turn to come. As I said, waiting time seems to be longer. So 5 minutes, they would perceive it that they will be waiting for 10 minutes plus 5 minutes more, 15 minutes. So if that is within his or her threshold limit, great. If that is below his threshold limit, the customer would become very unhappy or mad. So as a service provider nowadays, we should be very, very careful about all these things. And remember, we do not know what is the level of desired service. Also, we do not know what is the level of adequate service of that particular customers, because those customers are hardly known to us. It is not possible for us to know each and every customer's internal things. So the zone of tolerance for somebody would be very narrow, for somebody would be very wide, and in that situation it is very difficult to keep on satisfying the customers. So only thing then we have at this moment is that we have to talk about service quality, and not only service quality, perceived service quality. Perception is a big issue as far as service is concerned. So service quality shapes customer perception, and perceived service quality is a component of customer satisfaction, which already you know, and I have repeated it already. So service quality perceptions, the customers measure it through technical outcome. Suppose you go to a doctor, you are suffering from some ailment, and after visiting the doctor, after taking his medicines or her medicines, you are feeling all right. That means your outcome is good. But no, even after taking the medicines for 1 month, you are not feeling well, and you had to go to some other doctor, some other specialist. that means outcome is not good. So outcome is one quality perception. Then interaction during that service. We know the proverb or the saying that a doctor's behavior can cure a person by 50%. This is not untrue. Because what happens when a patient goes to a doctor, he is in a very stressed condition. He is a devastated condition. He is frustrated. The doctor talks to him. Some doctors, not all doctors, talks to him or her, reassures him or her that everything will be all right. You met such doctors that who are promising that yes, after taking these medicines, you'll be all right. But some other doctors you have seen that he or she is non-committal about your well-being, about your cure. And he or she is rough to you. So what happens is that interaction, it's not only that interaction happens only with the doctors, because in service this is inseparable. Service provider and service customers are inseparable. So customers would be there with the service provider, and there will be interactions without any exception between the service provider and the customer. So that interaction plays a very important role in deciding whether the service quality is good or not so good. And also, thirdly, physical environment. Physical environment means that you have certain tangible things in and around you. We'll talk about that tangibility next slide maybe. We also talked about tangibility and intangibility when we discuss the differentiation between service and goods. The tangibility reassures a customer. If you go to a restaurant, you know the restaurant serves food. All restaurants serve food. But what happens? If you go to one restaurant, you feel so good. You are ready to pay more. In some other restaurants, you do not feel so good. You are not ready to pay that much. I would love to give you an example. We'll talk about that later also. I call it Chatriwala Nimbu Pani. The lemon juice with an umbrella. Whenever you are asking for a lemon juice, depending on the physical environment, depending on the kind of value addition the service provider is making, they will offer you a glass of water with a little bit of lime in it, little bit of sugar in it, little bit of salt in it. But some service provider will give you some leaves of mint. They will also give you one small umbrella, non-edible of course, small umbrella, and give you a beautiful glass, right? So this gives you a kind of perception that, oh my God, I'm getting good service out here. This Nimbu Pani, this lime juice is really great. Actually, it is as great as any other Nimbu Pani. But the way it is being served to the customer plays a very important role when you decide about the quality of that particular service. So interaction, we will talk about when you talk about service encounter. Service encounter is a very important concept in service delivery. We'll take maybe half an hour or 45 minutes in deciding or discussing about service encounter. But outcome and physical environment, including service encounter, right, would be a part of marketing mix. In services, we are having more than 4 P's, as you already know. So we'll be talking about these when we discuss marketing mix some of our next episodes. So here what we want to tell is that service quality perception depends on the outcome, technical outcome of the service. That if you want to a barber shop and then you get a good haircut, you feel good, you go to a massage parlor, somebody comes and massages you and you feel so good, that means you are happy with the quality, you know the quality is high. When the interaction is very good, we'll talk about that. Even if the outcome is not that good, but interaction is good, some customer will forgive you once or twice about the outcome, will come back again to you to give you another chance. and then physical environment would also give you an idea about the qualities. Just remember the Chhatri wala Nimbu Pani example that I love to give to my students. So there are certain basic service quality dimensions. Those are developed by Parashuraman, Jethmalal and Berry in 1988. Those are very, very popular among service marketers. So we are going to talk about these in detail in the next slides. In these slides, I'm just giving you the overview. One is reliability. Second one is assurance. Third one is tangible, empathy, and responsiveness. These 5 different dimensions we know as RATER. R for reliability, A for assurance, T for tangibles, E for empathy, and responsiveness. So what is reliability? Reliability, according to those authors, is the ability to perform the promised service dependably and accurately. Every service provider is promising something, as I said in the beginning of this course, implicitly or explicitly. And when you are saying something explicitly like this, आज से ये नहीं होगा, that is the Airtel promise. If you're writing it down like this, right, in a contrast under red background, white contrast and red background, you are giving so much of emphasis in this promise. आज से ये नहीं होगा, क्या नहीं होगा? That if you're a postpaid customer of the Airtel's mobile phone, that means you are not going to lose unused data. You get cumulative unused data. If you are saving 500 MB in the earlier month, it will add up to your this month's quota, that is 1 GB plus 500 MB, it becomes 1.5 GB. So if you are promising like this and if you are assuring the customer, that means you must be able to do this. Your IT system should be strong enough not even to let one customer feel that yes, oh my God, they could not fulfill that particular promise. So it should be dependable and it should be accurate. If you are saying 500 MB is going to go to the next month, it should be 500 MB, because earlier month you used only 500 MB. 500 MB is balance, so next month's balance would be starting with 1.5 GB. That is reliability. Second one is assurance. Employees' knowledge and courtesy, the ability of the firm to inspire customer trust and confidence. So every service provider must try to inspire customer trust and confidence. That is a photograph I have taken from Avis India, working with others. They are saying that is from the manual of the employees I have taken. It was a PDF file that a customer contact person or any employee of Avis India must have courtesy and it must have knowledge. Look at the person, look at the smile. Such a beautiful smile that person is showing. That means this smile is also reflected in the smile of the customer. Look at this. So you must create that kind of environment in and around your service arena that inspire customer trust. Yes, I am in the right place, and it gives the confidence. Higher is the risk. Remember, higher is the risk, high will be the need for such assurances. When you go to a hospital, you are ill, or your near and dear one is ill, you are taking him or her to a hospital to get cured. So everything should be so assuring, right? So if you get some tentative things within that hospital onto your room, tentative things, that shows that, oh, you may be all right, you may not be all right, right? Sometimes I see, with all good intentions, the hospital authority would put in those things. They see on the way, when you are taking the patient, you see the God's pictures and prayer hall, etc., etc. These should be there, but not on the way when a new customer is coming, new patient is coming. New patient should come into a place where there is a lot of assurances all around. The nurses are efficient, they are coming and taking care of you. The doctors are coming and running around you. There is a sense of urgency, there is a sense of emergency in and around you, so that not that badly ill, you feel that, oh yes, I am in a right place. When you go to a new destination, you do not know about this destination, you do not know how to speak their language, you do not know their culture, you do not know how to behave in that community. Somebody from the service provider, that is the tour operator, should come and assure you that, yes sir and ma'am, I am with you, you just don't worry, whatever you need, just ask. So that kind of assurances should be around. Don't have to, somebody would not have come and tell you, but the people should be so approachable, the receptionist is so approachable, everybody is so helping, that you feel good, that if something goes wrong, even if something goes wrong today at night, I will not feel well tonight, they will take good care of me. So that is what is important for us. Then comes tangible, appearance of physical facilities, equipment, personnel and written material. Everything pass on a message. You download that Avis India handbook, you will find out that it's so well written. It is so well formatted that you feel so good go through those materials. Then comes, look at this glasses, so sparkling clean. I have taken two different uniforms. One is from Zomato, the other one is from Uber Eats. These uniforms would carry forward certain tangibles for the customers to see. Empathy, caring and individual attention, and then comes responsiveness, prompt service. If something goes wrong and the customer approaches you, you should be able to serve him or her promptly. The promptest service should be there as a part of your responsiveness. Number one, there should be willingness. If your service employees and a contact person, CCP, customer contact persons, are responsive, they will be willing, and they will be offering prompt service only when they are going to feel that ours to help the customers. So management of people in service organization is so very important, and people is a part of service. Marketing mix no longer is a HR job. We'll talk about that when you talk about marketing mixes. People plays a very important role. You look at all these 5 dimensions. Out of these 5 dimensions, you find, except for tangible, even intangible, people plays a very important role. But everywhere, all other 4 variables, you see people play a very important role. We'll talk about that. Just be patient. So zone of tolerance varies for quality dimensions. If it is tangible, you have got a different zone of tolerance. If it is empathy, you have got different zone of tolerance. For responsiveness, there would be a different zone of tolerance. Reliability, and also this zone of tolerance would vary depending on what kind of service you are looking forward to. If you are going to a restaurant, but in case of reliability, zone of tolerance would be narrow there. But for different people from different communities, people from different cultures, as I said, from different cultures, people would behave differently. Just remember the example of the Japanese customer service. So in SurfQuell, as I said, we'll talk about SurfQuell also. In SurfQuell, the authors are prescribing that a perception should be measured, and this perception after consumption of the service should be matched with the expectation of the customer. What customers actually expects and what they perceive after consuming the service are measured by 22 variables, 22 statements. I am giving the statements in your classroom. Please have a look at these. So remember the RMB course when we talked about that phenomena must be divided into different variables, measurable variables. Here this reliability is broken down to 5, responsive to 4, and total customer service quality is divided into 22 measurable variables, and these variables are measured through statements, and the statements are to be agreed or disagreed by the customers in a 7-point scale. And whenever you go to the material, you will understand that very well. There are various varieties of SurfQuel. SurfQuel was developed in 1988, and also SurfQuel, sometimes it has got 22 variables. Some of the SurfQuel scales, they have got 21 variables. Therefore, in earlier slide I wrote 22 variables, or here I am writing 21 variables. Do not get mistaken. It is measuring the same SurfQuel, all these rater, 5 rater dimensions. Different industries, service qualities can be measured by different variables. It is not that only one scale of measurement is going to measure SurfQuel for everyone, for every industry, for every service organization. No, it is not there. So people have been developing different things to measure, for maybe for banks something else, maybe for restaurants something else, some other statements, some other variables. Then we have got WebQual. With 12 variables we measure. SiteQual, 9 variables we take. eTailQ, e-retailing quality. SiteQuel means website quality. E-retailing quality, eTailQ, 4 factors with 14 variables. Then the same authors, Parasuraman, Jetmal and Berry, modified the SurfQuel scale for electronic service quality. They have got 4 different factors with 22 variables. These 4 different factors are efficiency, fulfillment, system availability and privacy of the electronic service provider. Then they have also modified further. So electronic recovery service quality. So something goes wrong and then service is being recovered, and what is this quality? We'll talk about service failure and service recovery. Just have patience. It is measured by 3 factors and by 11 variables. These 3 factors are responsiveness. I'm reading out from a material that I have already given to you. Responsiveness, compensation and contact. So these are the different varieties of service quality measures through which we can measure the perceived service quality of a service firm. There are different varieties. The material that I am sharing with you, written by Dr. Upakul Sharma, who was a research scholar in the Department of Business Administration. From his thesis, I have therefore I have given credit only to him. When they write, there are only 7 pages. Please do not hesitate to read these 7 pages. There you find the details of these all SurfQuel, WebQuel, SiteQuel, eTailQuel, ESQuel and eRecQuel. But then there are other improvement of SurfQuel mechanisms. The statements, the variables are being improved day by day with the changes of the way service is being provided to the customers, with the increase of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, AR, or use of different kind of equipments. For example, 20 years from now, India, we never heard about a vending machine. We heard about vending machine, but we didn't see a vending machine. Kind of a revolution that the ATM machines are everywhere. Probably everyone in India who is having a debit card or bank account have visited ATM once in their life. So ATMs are so easy. So things are changing, and therefore the service quality measurement are also going to change. ATM had made the tailors, T-E-L-L-E-ers, tailors, those who dispense money, human beings, are redundant. So things are changing very fast, and it is going to change very fast in future also. Another 5 years, we are going to see many changes. So these are the different measures. We are going to see more measures. And that's it for now. And please be in the lookout for assignments in the classroom. Till we meet again with the next video. Bye-bye. And please take care.